Being a teenager isn't easy.
Don't move on without him. Remember him. Bring him with you.
Time to put you out of your misery.
If you want to see the future, look to the past.
You really don't know what's going on, do you?
It's a tough week.
Hey everyone, welcome to the 6th episode of the SGP podcast. Right now, I have the Monsters of Manhattan star, Brandon Melo. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on. It's a huge honor.
It's great having you. You had your teaser released recently, which looks amazing. So one of the biggest takeaways I took from it is we have a really big horror element with Scorpion. Is that something that's going to be throughout the 5 episodes? Are you having horror elements in this Spider-Man story, or is it just for Scorpion itself?
Yeah, well, the design of the series, the meets pitch, is Stranger Things meets Cobra Kai. So we're taking a lot of the horror elements from the Stranger Things realm. And it's essentially a narrative about Peter Parker losing his innocence and growing up. And our way of dealing with that is him confronting elements of his own personality or the way that the public perceives him through Scorpion. So there's a lot of thematic relevance in the character of Scorpion, and we showcase that in essentially Spider-Man dipping into a new genre that we've never seen before. So the narrative starts off very traditional, and just like Harry Potter, or even like a show like Invincible, we see our character grow up very quickly. And that's essentially our series and our care for Peter.
Obviously Stranger Things and Cobra Kai inspired you, but what other things inspired you? Like, what other elements did you pick from to build your world as well?
In particular to the comics realm?
Comics and other media you may have been inspired by.
Sure. Well, I think it's very noticeable within our suit that we're very inspired by Sam Raimi, and we want to essentially build a world that feels very early 2000s. Let's say that Spider-Man had a TV show made within that point in time. What would that look like? What would that feel like? So we were very heavily inspired by Smallville as well. Kind of playing within similar tones and coming of age, narrative threads. So we were inspired by that. I was also, very inspired by the Ultimate Comics. That was something that I grew up reading quite a lot. Spider-Man Mythos was a big inspiration. I'm a huge fan of that. And Doc Ock Year One was just an incredible piece of literature that I wanted to adapt some of those moments. So yeah, a good crux of our series is the battle of the mentors. I don't want to give too much away, but it's essentially very inspired by Good Will Hunting, where it's these two mentors trying to control Peter, our protagonist's destiny. And it's very much up in Peter's hands what he'll do next.
We saw in the trailer that Kingpin is in this series. Is he kind of like the big bad controlling everything, or is he someone that's like a recurring role as a character?
We utilize him very sparingly. He is almost like this looming presence that is integral to all of our characters. He's the thread. Very much like what I was describing to you earlier about Peter jumping into different genres, cross-pollinating between different genres, right? the idea here is that part of the genre that Peter also finds himself in is a political thriller in Kingpin and what he's doing, and Scorpion plays a big part in that. So yeah, there's a lot yet to be revealed, but yeah, he's this looming presence that this unstoppable force that no one really has seen or knows about, but yet everyone is connected to, and it's this very, very scary presence that honestly, even at points, kind of feels like it's straight out of a horror film because of how much it just reflects real life in a lot of ways. So yeah, we were very strategic with how we put together the narrative.
Now, in a lot of the promotion and teasers, I've heard the line "confront your past." Do we see a lot of the flashbacks, and is this like a full circle story where a lot of Peter's mistakes from his past come back to haunt him?
Yes, in a lot of ways, more than one. That connects to the Kingpin and some of the other characters that are within our show. It's very much a year one SpiderMan narrative where he's fresh off of the death of Uncle Ben, and we don't necessarily fully explore the origin story, but we explore it enough that you get an understanding of its ripple effect in present day. We don't harp on it. We know that the audience has seen it. So the only point in time that we do go back to the origin is to reveal a new piece of information that we haven't seen before. If it's very specific to our universe, then we have to show it because it's new content. And there's a lot of that we get to explore new sides of the origin story that has never even been done in the comics. It's very much a fresh new take on the origin and what that does to a kid, right? Would he tell his friends and family? What type of guilt does he carry around? A lot of those questions of what a modern day teenager is dealing with and that type of teen angst is something that we're very interested in exploring, because remember, it's very much a battle of the mentors, right? It's Peter feeling like he has to, in a way, replace Uncle Ben, and he finds out throughout the narrative that he's very incapable of doing that. That there will be no other Uncle Ben, so he has to find a new way to fill that void, and he has to figure out what that is, which is a lot of elements are even just relatable of my own life. Coming up in the industry, not having that many people that have experienced this. The film industry is very new to Boston. There isn't a big pool to kind of pull from. Like LA or even New York. So I kind of had to find my own path. So I wanted to tell something that was very meaningful to me that I feel like could help, our audiences.
So Shocker seems like a main player in this series. What would you want to explore with the character that's new and fresh on Shocker? Because I've seen him used in a lot of media recently. Mm-hmm. What did you do to differentiate this Shocker from other versions that have come out recently?
Well, I'll hit you with two things. Okay, the first thing is just getting Jamie Costa in general does some wonders for the character. He is a gem and an absolute brilliant actor. He's a powerhouse. Some of my favorite scenes in the whole show, all 5 episodes, are just his specific sequences. My directing style on the day had changed a little bit to adapt to Jamie. Some of the knowing how powerful of an actor he is, we communicated so much just through visuals. There were like moments throughout the narrative where it's just watching him, experience life or whatever the conflict is of the day, and it's just so convincing. And I can't say enough good things about him. He's a brilliant actor. And someone I've looked up to a good portion of my life. So getting to work with one of my heroes was really inspiring. And two, on the creative front, getting someone like Jamie, you want to make sure that you have material that's compatible with him, right? So what we do with a lot of our actors in the show is that we get actors that are traditionally casted as heroes. and placing them in villain roles to see how they adapt to it. But one thing that we see in a lot of Spider-Man media is that, you know, what makes the hero so compelling, like Vulture or even Thanos or Killmonger, you empathize with them. There's a small part of you that even can sympathize with them, right? They have such a strong argument that you're even questioning if the hero is right. You're like, Spider-Man, do I really want you to take this guy down? He's Jamie Costa. Why would you want to do this to Jamie Costa? That is a very important piece of the puzzle where, you know, every villain, every antagonist is the hero of their own narrative, right? So casting people that are traditional heroes, I think, is a fun way to add some conflict, but also add some conflict to the audience where they're not necessarily sure who's in the right because the lines are so blurred. So Shocker in this series, you know, playing with our theme of Peter trying to Peter trying to find his destiny and being conflicted with having two clashing perspectives and ideologies, and trying to find a new father figure in his life. We combat that with challenges to Peter's own story by having Shocker be a father. And what happens when Peter puts him away in prison? Well, that means that he's having a boy experience something very similar to what he experienced, where he loses, he may lose a father, right? What does that look like? Is Peter the cause of another Uncle Ben incident? So it's those type of challenges that I feel like are not challenges we're seeing within the MCU, and where we have to go a little bit deeper to really make sure that the story is there and it's genuine and that we can feel it. Because I feel like the power of just cinema in general is that it can make you feel, and it can even change your life. Certain films I've walked away from that have impacted me, and I've carried those messages for the rest of my life. And we want to make sure that we're not just making a good fan series. We went into this making sure that it's objectively good, not by fan film standards, but by film standards, really. And that's been such a long time in the making, is that that's difficult to do when you're on a thin budget. So we wanted to make sure that we did things right, and that we can deliver a good quality product that can really impact people's lives.
So I've seen some of the side characters like Liz and Aunt May in the trailer as well. Who else of Peter's gang is in this show, and do they have like a big impact on Peter's life? With him having to find out, does he tell the people that he's close with that he's Spider-Man, or does he keep it a secret this whole time?
Yeah, that's a good question. One thing that we're exploring within this narrative is Peter and Flash's relationship. In this version, we want to preserve and keep a lot of the college gang for college that in the Raimi trilogy, you had Harry come in high school, and a lot of the initial history of the character was very muddled because of that, and it very much worked for those trilogies, but we wanted to kind of follow the path that the comics had given us, and one of which is preserving Harry and Gwen for the college life, and really exploring Liz and Flash for his early years in high school. So we wanted to play with the mythos a little bit, and just very much like Cobra Kai, you have a lot of characters constantly playing sides, right? Miguel, one season, the protagonist can be on the side of Cobra Kai and essentially be transformed to the side of evil, right? And then the next season he realizes the harm that Cobra Kai can cause, and then he decides that he no longer wants to be associated, right? You have so many back and forths with characters, and that's what brings good drama, right? So we wanted to play with the mythos, and in the very early years of Spider-Man, one thing that Spectacular played with and the comics played with is that Peter and Flash were best friends. And inevitably, there was a point in time where they went their own separate ways. So very much like the Harry Osborn arc, where you have, these relationships kind of going their separate ways. We want to play with that here, where just like Superbad or like any coming of age story. You have two characters that are not right for each other, but part of growing up is coming to that realization, right? That you guys are just very different, and then you guys diverge. So that's very much about Peter and Flash's relationship, realizing that they're not part of the same cliques and they're not necessarily as compatible as they thought. And kind of rather than like in Harry's sense where you become a supervillain, we wanted to have something a little bit more relatable where Peter has made so many mistakes that inevitably it caught up to him. And one of those mistakes is Flash slipping through his fingers, losing that relationship, and it being his own cause, really. And Flash inevitably moving past his relationship with Peter because he felt like he was holding him back. So a lot of that narrative is just about growing up and adolescence. So Flash is not going to become Venom in the season or anything like that. Spoiler alert. It's just really about friendship and that crux and what secrets can do to a friendship.
So, you said about saving Harry and Gwen. Are there plans for season 2, season 3? Is there like a broader story you're telling whilst telling Monsters of Manhattan?
Yeah, we definitely have hopes and dreams of telling more narratives. I mean, it's a huge honor to be able to tell Spidey's narrative, even if it is in the fan film sense. We're taking the same approach as if we were given the rights. We come to it and say, how do we tackle this the best that we can objectively? Of course, it's a nonprofit. There's no ROI, but we wanted to approach this as if all of these scenes could function and work if we removed the Spider-Man name and we called it Vigilante Kid. They just need to be good scenes that work on their own, right? So right now, we're focusing on just telling a really good story about season 1, and hopefully it gets a good response where we can tell more stories. A good friend of mine is Alex Hunter, who's known as High Top on YouTube. He's a
big fan of his YouTube videos.
Yeah, me too. While we were in the writing process, I was listening to him. My business partner Alex. Iasconi, he's a Harvard graduate, and there was a room of very sophisticated people, and I was just like, okay, guys, this kid from Pittsburgh understands Spider-Man, so we're gonna sit down and watch this thing for 40 minutes straight. And Alex Hunter is an absolute genius. He understands the character of Spider-Man like no other, and I'm really just honored to even say that he's a friend of mine. It's very surreal, and we've had plenty of conversations about what a season 2 could be like. Right now, he's part of the creative team for season 1, but he's really helping out in the additional photography realm. So a lot of the story is already built in, a story that we've pretty much told. But there's little elements that he can adjust and help with the post-production process. We both connect over just making sure that, our story has maximum impact. So he's going to help us kind of wrap things up with season 1 on the creative side of things. And we're hoping that in season 2, we can develop something from scratch. And season 1 is all about, a week in Peter Parker's life during his high school years. So the hope is that if we were to continue, season 2 would be a week in his life in his college years, and seeing that progress where we can introduce some new players and see how some of these consequences for season 1 have a ripple effect in the future seasons, right? Seeing how these characters can switch sides and how the lines are very blurred, because that's what makes really good Spider-Man content is just all of the relationships and the intricacies and just telling a very human story. Because, showcasing cool action, there's so many other videos that you could watch. another crew that we've worked with, That and the Sun crew. They've put out plenty of superpower beatdowns. We cannot compete with those guys. They understand action like no other. I don't have that brain. My brain is all about story and drama. We have some incredible people helping us with the action side of things, but what I care about the most is not necessarily, seeing people fight. I care about seeing, the clash of ideologies and what that does and the long-lasting effects on character. I really have more to say on the philosophical side of things with Spider-Man than I do on the action side of things. But yeah, that's just my perspective. The hope is, yes, we want to do more. We have a whole world to play with. Plenty of collaborators are coming onto this project that are extremely talented. One of them is who I was just talking to prior to this interview is Danny Shepard from Ismahawk, and he's coming on as our Tony Stark, and we have a lot to say with him. So we want to highlight some of these other characters in the future, whether it's on season 2 or spin-offs or whatever it may be. We have a world there that we want to explore. So we want to focus on just saying this one story and saying it as loud as possible, and making sure that our voice is cohesive. And if that voice is strong and loud enough that people want to keep hearing it, then we have a lot more to say.
What made you decide to make this into a series instead of a whole entire film? Was it the story that you wanted to tell that takes time throughout each episode, or was it something you just kind of already had in mind that this was going to be a series from beginning to end?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. Well, there was a few different inspirations. So outside of my clinical response that I gave you earlier about what the pitch of the series is and what our inspirations are in regards to tone, first and foremost, I'm a fan, and I read Spider-Man growing up, and he helped me through a lot of dark times. He's motivated me through a lot of dark times. One of the things that kept helping me during those dark times were the serialized nature of the character, and that every month I can look forward to my good pal Spider-Man helping me out on a comic book shelf and telling me a good story. And that's something that I feel like isn't explored as much with the character. It's a shame that he hasn't had a live action series, and really that's what we want to bring, is a really strong live action series where it's in the vein of like a live action spectacular Spider-Man, right? Where the serialized nature is baked into its design, and that we get to keep up with our hero, and I think something as relatable of just following a school week in this guy's life is really perfect for that serialized nature, where each day it just keeps getting worse. And a lot of people can relate to that in their own lives. I certainly could, where it's just like, just each day, just come on. Can it get any worse? And then it gets worse.
And then it does.
So that's I think the irony of the character, and that's something that even Stan Lee said, like during the creation of the character, like Spider-Man is supposed to be the type of guy that wakes up in the morning and is worried about the zit on his forehead, right? That you won't see that with Superman or Batman. You're not going to see Batman be like, yes, I have a zit. I'm Batman. It's really about like some of the smaller intimate moments, I think, are the things that I'm the most excited about, and I think work the best with the character. And outside of the comics growing up, like the Ultimate Comics and such, one thing that really inspired me, that made me want to become a filmmaker, was watching Peter's Web. And it's such a throwback. Really only like a limited audience knows about the existence of this. It was really before fan films became uber popular. It was this really like small niche thing that this guy, I don't know how he did it, got like a camcorder and played like 5 different characters, wrote this on the fly. It was a 6-part series, and it was incredible, like craftsmanship and just drive that I think hasn't been replicated since. I don't think there ever has been a Roger King since in the community. And I think that it really inspired me at such a young age, where I was like, wow, this guy like really like committed himself and got to play his favorite hero. And he had such a compelling story as well, and adapted all of these incredible comics that I grew up reading. And there's just nothing like it, and it profoundly changed my life ever since. And that's besides the fact that I feel like the character was created for a serialized adaptation. I also feel like this is my tip of the hat, a tribute to what had inspired me at such a young age with Peter's Web. And I had just made so many discoveries when I was 12 of just like the character and really now what the fan film community is, because just when I had discovered Peter's Web, TASM was about to come out, and then Lost Cause was in the works. So it was really just like this big like boom of just all of these fan films coming out, and all of these people feeling empowered enough to and bold enough to be able to put on the costume, say that they're the character, and tell a really compelling story. And there's so many people since then that have done a really good job and have really told powerful, moving stories that just has moved me so much, that kept that flame going that started when I was so young. So elaborate answer, but an answer nonetheless.
Yeah, I really do agree with you with Spider-Man being a serialized character. That's one of the reasons why I love Spectacular Spider-Man, is you get to see the character grow and experience his life and what he does. And, not just him being Spider-Man, but him going to the prom dance, or, doing, trying out for football, which is like an episode I just saw. I'm rewatching it for like the 5th time.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, I've been going through a bit of a binge myself. It's just so good. It really is a shame that it didn't get picked up for season 3. But
you never know. You never know.
They're having a little bit of a resurgence.
Yeah.
With Josh Keaton now being in Across the Spider-Verse, so that's promise. It's a little bit of hope.
And Josh Keaton has spoken on wanting to return, I think, and on his live streams, and then talking about like the future of the show, where it was supposed to go. So I definitely don't think it's a closed book yet.
Yeah,
it's just maybe be patient for it.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, they brought Young Justice back, and they had a lot of the same creators. So, it's a hope. It's a hope. I think it might happen. Maybe.
So I want to dive in a little bit into your Peter Parker. Mm-hmm. What is your Peter like? You said he's losing his innocence, so he's very innocent, obviously, at the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. Does he have just like charm to him? Is he a hothead, maybe like in the comics? Because I know in the Ultimate comics he's quite a bit of a hothead. Has some anger issues. Mm-hmm. Does your Peter show that, or is he more of a sweet Peter? And what did you take from other Peters and other medias, or perhaps other characters that inspired you to make your own version of Peter Parker?
That's definitely a really good question. I think in a lot of ways, very much like PS4 / PS5, it's an amalgamation of everything that we love about the character. There's a lot of elements from all the different Spider-Man that I really plugged into my performance that had really inspired me. One in particular, I think the best actor to have been given the role is actually Andrew Garfield, and I think that he did a lot with his mannerisms that I feel like no other actor has really done since. And even though he doesn't have the best films or the best stories, I feel like he told the best story that he could with the material that he had. And there was just a gravitas and just an energy about him that I feel like hasn't been replicated since. And honestly, like he was my favorite part of No Way Home. When he came back, I was like, here's the movie. The movie is back.
I remember like taking a break. Like I wanted to go to the bathroom, and there was a kid that he had seen it. I think he saw like that fan event they did like a week prior, and he was like, "Don't leave." And I was like, and I just like turned my head back, and I just see a portal open. Okay, and I ran back to my seat. and I see Andrew Garfield pop out, and it was like so mesmerizing because like, what is he doing here?
Yeah, no, I mean he has such a presence that I feel like hasn't been replicated since, and it's just it's another situation where I feel like it was his story was cut off a little bit too short. It's always number two. They always stop at number two. Like in regards to outside of all the pieces of content that I've consumed and the history that I'm familiar with, you can always look to the past to inform you, but at the end of the day, people aren't going to be judging your influences or your backstory. Like you have to have that presence on the day and know what your story is. Like I've said before, we wanted to say something and tell a story that was objectively good. So that means not just emulating what came in the past, right? Heath Ledger didn't just do a Jack Nicholson impersonation, right? Even though he enjoyed his performance and has stated that publicly. Really what I wanted to do here is tell the story about a loner, a kid with a broken heart who learns to trust again and become a team player. And that's essentially where we see him at the beginning of the series, that he's very closed off. He's very reserved. He has a lot of that anger boiling up, but not until the latter half of the series do we really see him start lashing out, just like we've seen in the comics. He does have that anger in him. That's why he goes out and puts on that suit and beats up bad guys. But he needs to learn to not just be angry towards the world and give in to all of those evil lessons that he's learned in the past. It's really about him finding his path and learning what justice is and learning what it means to trust again. He lost that trust when he lost Uncle Ben. That was the person that he was closest to, and he in this series he feels like every time that he gets close to someone, he feels like he's just going to end up losing them. So why even bother, right? Which is kind of that almost like nihilist perspective that Otto has. And I feel like Otto had imparted that onto my version of Peter. And Peter's trying to kind of wash off that dark stain. So there's a good amount of meat to the narrative that, we have a lot of influences. I can point to a lot of pieces of literature and even film. But really, at the end of the day, like I feel like the Peter that we have in this series is very specific to Monsters of Manhattan, and I feel like there really hasn't been another interpretation like this. It's very specific, and there's a lot of just my voice kind of coming through that. That I feel like it's its own take. While still, paying tribute to what has come before in a lot of ways.
So the show looks amazing. It's obviously high quality. How long was this process to do this whole season? Was there ever a moment where it just frustrated you to the point where you're like, how long was the process? How was the process? And how, were your different emotions through the process of doing, shooting, production, post-production?
Mm-hmm. No, that's a phenomenal filmmaking question. Honestly, I can very clearly say that this project has been my film school. I have been in the industry since I was 8 years old. I started very young. I've always known that I had the passion for storytelling and filmmaking. I started more in the modeling and commercial world. And not until I was like 15, 16 did I start delving more into the film and acting side of things, really diving in deep into dramatic performances and all these different type of techniques. I have always wanted to tell something with Spider-Man since I was a kid. I would make costumes, and when I was younger, I was even overweight, and the thought of playing Spider-Man motivated me to lose all the weight and go to the gym. When I was 12, I was 5 feet tall and 200 pounds, and I had ended the school year of sixth grade motivated to lose all that weight. And by the end of the summer, I came back seventh grade at 120 and have grown since. So the character has impacted me in all sorts of ways throughout my entire life. So I've always had that burning passion to want to say something with Spider-Man, even down to, when I was 12, so couldn't afford a laptop. So I wrote my first screenplay for a Spider-Man thing when I was 12 on a typewriter, just because I wanted to say something so much, but I didn't have the tools. And really, this whole process, and the reason why this had taken as long as it has, is because I was accumulating the tools to give it that quality that you see now. That had to be learned through failures. So I had to fail so many times in order for me to know what is right, and what looks good and what is my voice, and figuring that out. Because the challenge of making something when you're young is because you're still figuring out who you are. So it's very difficult for you to also then make a product that encapsulates who you are, because you're kind of all over the place. You're kind of still like, you're kind of just all these splodges of paint, right? And you don't know how to paint. So really, it was my film school figuring out how to put together a project and how to make it very high quality. And I went through so many different revisions. When I was 16, I had shot a darker interpretation of the character. It was for a pilot called The Web of Spider-Man, and I didn't have as many resources as I did back then. It was very much like a DSLR and a couple of friends and my mentor at the time, just going around shooting this passion project. And there was no lighting setup. There was no AC, no AD, no grips, no nothing. It was just like a Party City costumes and stuff. And it was this very crude interpretation of the character that very much like what I was describing about failings. Like I failed to recognize what was so special about Spider-Man then, because I was going through a dark time myself. I then projected that onto the character, and that wasn't right of me to do. So I'd gone so far in regards to making my own interpretation of Spider-Man that I had then realized I'd taken it too far. It wasn't my own interpretation. It was just its own character. And that's what I realized with Web of Spider-Man, is that if you go too far with the IP and it's unrecognizable, then why even pay tribute or even make a fan project to that IP? And that's the I guess like slippery slope about this whole thing, is that your voice can never overtake the project, right? That's what a lot of people have issues with, like Man of Steel, right? Because Zack's voice became too loud and prominent and distracting from Superman, and a lot of people felt like it didn't have that innate optimism that a lot of people were looking for, and very much similar to what we had done with Web of Spider-Man. It became too unrecognizable, where it didn't feel like that optimism that people were seeking. So I dropped that when I was 17, and then afterwards I tried figuring out and trying to crack this true detective style Spider-Man series, and inevitably it just became too depressing because the content was so depressing that I was like, I don't really, why can I just play Spider-Man? I just want to play Spider-Man. So then we had realized the error in our ways, and had to kind of like halt production for us to find what it is we're doing here. And that meant, new project management and people kind of coming in to on the writer's side of things, and us like basically recalibrating to this new vision, which inevitably became Monsters of Manhattan. So once we had dropped Web, I had gone to the writers team and I was like, okay, let's take it from scratch. What would we do now with all of these lessons learned and with all of the resources that we currently have and the equipment that we have? So that was when I was 18, and then 19 is when we went out for shooting for Monsters, and then this little thing happened called the pandemic, where everything basically halted, and we were getting ready to finish up, shooting all the SpiderMan segments. So basically, all the Peter Parker segments were shot in 2019. And we were getting ready to get back into shooting the SpiderMan segments, and everything shut down, and we were like, "Oh, okay." Actually, I have a funny story about that. I'd gone out with my business partner the day before everything shut down, and I was going to him and I was like, "Do you think this is going to be a problem while we're at an IHOP?" He's like, "Nah. So many times before this, things have flared up like this. We're going to be fine, dude. Like, don't even worry about it. We're going to shoot at the end of March. It's going to be okay." And then everything shut down, and he was horribly wrong. One of the rare instances. He was utterly wrong. Although while everything that occurred with COVID was very strenuous and very terrible for the rest of the world, it allowed us to kind of, again, look at our pages and figure out what we're saying here and what we're going to be doing. And we had then started reaching out to some of our favorite actors. And that's when we had been able to start up communication with Jamie Costa, Tatiana from Bat in the Sun, Kevin Porter, a lot of these like very recognizable names that we honestly would have never had access to if the pandemic had never occurred, because they would have been just too busy. Like they would have been working on, actual paying jobs. And it was, it allowed us to really expand upon the narrative and become bigger than we had ever anticipated. So we had workshopped the pages, we got it to a really good place, and then we had gone back and shooting in the latter half of that summer, beginning of fall. We had wrapped everything up in November 2020. So we had shot like end of August up until then, and it was just like months of shooting. I think we had like 40 something shoots. It was quite a lot. But basically, we had shot the entire series as if it was a feature, and just gone through that iteration of the series and shot everything with all of the assets and resources that we had at our disposal. We had capped off that narrative and thought it was in a good place. And in 2021, we had some like minor additions, like a post-credit scene that we shot with some of the Bat and Sun fam. And we had shot with some other creators for like small little cameo pieces to expand upon our resources that we had found. But pretty much since the end of 2020 up until now, we've been within the post-production realm, trying to crack the narrative and making sure that it all functions within or functions appropriately, and is all in service of our story. And there was a lot of discoveries that we had found in post-production that we would have never known until we had really just gone out and shot this thing. So they say in film school that you basically make the movie 3 times. First, when you write it, you come up with the vision, you figure out what your voice is, and you're like, oh, these are all the things I want to say. And then you go and shoot it and you realize money exists and is quite a problem and is a hurdle to overcome. So you go out and you shoot this passion project and you're like, yeah, Spider-Man's going to swing from buildings. Isn't that going to be great, guys? It's going to look great in post-production. And then you get into post-production and you're like, maybe we shouldn't have done that. That was a bad idea. You kind of have to find a way to to figure out your resources and your limit, essentially. So throughout this entire process, we kind of figured out what our limits are and what we're capable of doing, and we can do some really incredible things. You saw in our teaser, we could pull off swinging in such a really a magnificent way. It really is like very triumphant. So now we've cut together all 5 episodes. We're in a really good place, and we're starting to get into some of the nitty gritty and the deeper sections of the VFX realm. We have an incredible team, and really that team was found over these years of sending people what we had shot and gathering up these resources that I would have never had at the beginning of production. So it's finding these good teams and reliable people, and now we're moving on with some of the post-production elements, and we're trying to patch up some of those gaps that we've created for ourselves in the edit, and going back into reshoots and additional photography this fall. So from beginning to now, it was about like 5 years total of getting this series done. And I talked to a lot of other creatives that are aspiring to do something similar. I've spoken to my buddy Bennett from SpiderMan alone, and
Yeah.
he's a great guy. He's brilliant. But I cautioned him of biting off more than you can chew, because that's very much what we had done ourselves, where we wrote a 200-page screenplay. We had shot that 200 pages, but sustaining quality over that period of time is so difficult. And there are so many hurdles that you find on the day that you could never anticipate. No film school can really teach you how to deal with these problems on the day. And especially with like a passion project like this, there are so many corners that you have to cut. And when you cut those corners, you have to deal with those consequences. Just like Peter, if he skips out on a math test and he gets a 0, that affects his GPA because he's out fighting bad guys, right? You deal with consequences in all forms and ways in real life as well. And making sure that your limits is something very important, and something that I caution other creatives when they're going into making something like this, is to not be too overly ambitious where they get trapped in a 5-year-long process, because you're striving for quality, but you're also finding your way as a filmmaker, and that's very difficult to do hand in hand. So having a good team with you is very important, and that's what I found throughout this entire process. And I would have never been able to do it without my business partner, Alex Iasconi, Justin Blackburn, our project manager and co-producer, and Jordan D. Foss, who is helping us out on the writing side of things, but is also coming on as a producer and even donated to get some scenes shot. So there were so many hands and people in this that I could have never done this alone. And it's really exciting to also be crossing the finish line with so many of those people. So long-winded answer again, but nonetheless, it is an answer.
The answers are great, man. I can't complain. So speaking more until release date for Monsters of Manhattan,
Yeah.
do you plan on doing something like a premiere or something for the fans to interact with, or are you gonna release it all in one day or weekly? How is it mostly gonna pan out?
Yeah, we have a schedule that we're aiming for. We're getting into shooting. If all goes well with our current schedule, there's some more interference with just like everything with the strike and all of those things. And we want to be respectful of everyone in SAG and make sure that we do everything by the book, so we don't create any issues with our team. So we want to be very respectful of that. So we have a schedule that we want to get into for additional photography, but that's all pending what we want to do with our team, and if they're available and if we can afford it. So a lot of money is also still being raised through our Indiegogo. So it's pending a lot of different things, but the hope is that we can deliver the pilot this winter. And then the following year, we'll be able to follow through with the latter half of the season, 2 through 5, and be able to give the rest. Then once we've delivered one, people have given, understood the vision and given have a taste of it. And then consecutively, the months to follow, we're planning, one episode a month. And dropping it. So we have everything scheduled and mapped out in order for us to do that. So we're just raising the capital in order for us to do that, to respect everyone's time, and also to give all the resources that we need. There's so many things on just the terabyte drives just to hold the footage. The drives that we have are quite expensive because it is 4K quality footage. So just having all those backups. I mean, the majority of my office is just all of these drives, like this Gemini here. If you can see that, like that's a huge bad boy. Like there's a lot of there's so much needed that you would have never known if like those small things you learn while you're going through the process of learning what it means to be a filmmaker. We have a mapped out schedule. It's just making sure that life doesn't get in the way, and making sure that we can be respectful for the SAG strike, but also make sure that we can raise the capital needed in order to finish it out. So it's quite a process, but we're close to the finish line, and I'm very grateful for the community that we built with this. And now that people have seen the teaser, I think people understand why it's taken this amount of time, because the quality is just so high. Like Rob, our colorist, he's an extremely experienced individual who has worked in the color realm of things for years on end. I actually found him through his work on Coda, Defending Jacob, and he had also worked on another fan project called Bel Air, which inevitably led. It was the proof of concept trailer that had led to the new show that we see now on Peacock. And his color was just so moving. So we had reached out to him about 2.5 years back, and we had asked him if he was interested in SpiderMan and what he was doing, and what would be needed to secure him onto the project. And getting Rob on board meant we could also get an incredible mixer, a friend of his named Mike. So we had accumulated so many people on the post-production side of things that just are extremely experienced, that aren't your typical people that you would bring on to a fan film, but are industry standard, so we could provide an industry standard product. Even though it's a nonprofit and there's no ROI, we wanted to be of a high quality.
Yeah, so I'm excited for the project. I think it's gonna be very, like I said, very high quality. It's very Netflix-like series with 5 episodes. We'll be able to binge it like in a day, hopefully.
A day, pretty much. It's about roughly 3 hours of content total.
Like 30-minute episodes.
Roughly, yeah. It varies very much, like Disney Plus and Netflix. The range of each episode, like our pilot, is a lot longer than all of our other episodes.
Yeah.
Our pilot right now is about 40 minutes, but we're trying to get it down to 30, and then moving some of the story to episode 2. So yeah, it's quite a lengthy big boy. But a lot of our content that we shot with some of our creators will also be like additional content. Like we shot with Colin from Nerdbot as a character from the Daily Bugle, and he has like some news segments, so we'll release that on its own as just kind of like a fun world building thing where we get to see like William Schufelt from Nerdbot and Power Ranger, I think it's Ninja Steel. He plays our Johnny Storm. So we have like a lot of fun, like world expansive things that will exist outside of our series. So Even though you're getting 3 hours of the show, we're getting a lot of other content as well outside of that. So like when all is said and done, like you're gonna be exploring this world for like 5 hours, maybe even more, with all of the other additional content that we're going to be putting out. So that it's quite a hefty Herculean effort to put this project together, but I think it will be very rewarding to everyone who's stood by us.
So moving a little more towards your career side of things, is there any other character you would love to adapt in live action apart from Spider-Man that has also resonated to you?
Ooh, yeah, quite a few. I think the two characters that I would love to do at some point in my life. I really do love the Batman mythos. One of the most transformative films in my life was Batman Begins. Seeing that when I was a kid, just the messages of just the will to act is such a necessity and something that I always listen to. Even when I go to the gym, I listen to that monologue just because it's so moving and powerful. And I have a lot to say with what that character could look like in my hands, and there's a lot of profound elements from his mythos that I feel like still have not been covered yet cinematically, that I feel like could be a really emotional piece of art if done correctly. The other character that I love very dearly is the Hulk. Just the dichotomy of that, I think, is very profound and very interesting. It's just the duality of the character, I think, is something that hasn't been explored as well cinematically. I feel like there's been a lot of missed opportunities, and I wish that he had his own franchise, because I feel like he's worthy of that. And we got a first installment for Incredible Hulk, and it was one of my favorite movies of '08. We got a stacked list with Iron Man and Dark Knight, and one of the films that I kept going back to see in the theater was Incredible Hulk. While looking back on it years later, it's not the best piece of cinema by any means, but there's some really good themes in there that I feel like have been lost since like really Age of Ultron. Like I feel like Age of Ultron was the last time we saw your traditional like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type dichotomy of the character, and that's someone I would really love to kind of see a story through his eyes. So
yeah, we're long overdue a Hulk movie.
Yeah, dude. Needed.
So long overdue, and people have been saying it. Hulk was the man until like they stopped creating Hulk content, and Iron Man kind of became part of that the three heroes for Marvel.
Sure. Yeah. No, I hear you there. Yeah, I feel like we haven't had like a strong like Hulk film like proper. I like what Ang Lee did to a certain degree. I like the psychological nature, but just the way he presented it with like the comic book panels, while is commendable and interesting to say the least. I don't feel like it really captured the character as well as it could have, and I feel like there was a lot missing from the 2008 film. I mean, even Edward Norton didn't go on press because all of his favorite bits and all of the additional content that he wrote got cut out. There were so many elements that had that psychological thriller element from the comic books, and were just completely lacking and missing in the film. I feel like the last time we had like a really good interpretation was the television show, but even that was dated because you had to paint Lou Ferrigno green in order to get a Hulk, and I feel like there's so much that could have been explored. And he had a brief cameo in She-Hulk, but even that was kind of like goofy, Professor Hulk that I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah, I watched She-Hulk. I was not a big fan of it, to be honest.
Yeah. We got our boy Charlie back as Daredevil, so that's cool.
That was like probably the best part of it for me. I remember me and my girlfriend were like, we'll give it a chance, like we'll watch it. We didn't like it. We didn't like it, and then Charlie Cox came in, and we're like, yes, and then he left, and we're like, no.
Yeah, true. Yeah, no. Charlie was a highlight for me as well. I love the whole Netflix show, like that was color wise, and even some of the themes of the Daredevil Netflix show you can kind of see in Monsters, which is its overall stylization. And we had a bunch of people that had worked on Netflix shows in regards to our grip and lighting team, that we kind of went for that same style. Daredevil is just some of the best superhero content out there. Like it's very difficult to top. Like I'm even hesitant to say like, oh yeah, that's a character that could interest me, because like I don't think I can do anything better than what Netflix has already done. So like Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie, like that is it. Like that those are the characters forever and always. So I'm
Jackman as Wolverine. You will never get another one like that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, Hugh's incredible. That's Logan is.
Are you excited for him to return in Deadpool?
I'm interested, yeah, but I feel like what could be said has been said. I don't know what else they can do. Like I know that they've always wanted to do the crossover between Logan and Deadpool, but I feel like, after you've concluded the narrative so strong in Logan, I feel like there's nothing else to do. And I know they're traveling back in time and playing with the world, but like even so, like just the fact that he is returning, kind of takes away from the finality of Logan, because one of the reasons why it was so rich and strong is because, it was the end of an era, right? Like it was the end of his story. There was no more. And without finality, without an ending, then you don't really know what you're working up towards. That's kind of like one of the reasons why I feel like Marvel right now is not doing as well, is because like we really don't know what we're building up to. We know that it's kind of like Secret Wars and King Dynasty, but it's kind of the conversation about like, quality over quantity. Right now, Marvel is just providing just a sheer amount. It's providing such a surplus of content right now that it kind of just takes away from what they're building up towards, and you kind of really don't even know what King is going to be. And he's been defeated already in Ant-Man, so it's spoilers. It's like, what are we doing here?
It's been really weird, because with the Infinity Saga, you saw the Infinity Stones and they played a big part, and like with this multiverse saga, it's like, but they're also trying to introduce new characters that have nothing to do with the narrative of the multiverse. So it's been like very, I guess, in a sense, messy.
Yeah. They're just introducing a bunch of like tertiary characters that are not going to like provide any sort of substance in the larger Marvel canon. They just kind of like exist for existence sake.
Miss Marvel, maybe Moon Knight. I liked Moon Knight, but I don't really see, like, they haven't really said like anything on him after the show.
Yeah.
And like other characters, like who was another character? I feel like the Eternals also were like, they introduced the Eternals, but it has nothing to do with what they're gonna do with Kang.
I liked elements of Moon Knight. I thought there were some cool aspects of it. I thought the first few episodes were very strong. I'm a big Oscar Isaac fan. Pretty much a good portion of all Juilliard alumni or geniuses. just a lot of the Disney Plus shows. I haven't really gravitated towards. I liked elements of WandaVision. I really liked Winter Soldier, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Another Juilliard alumni and Anthony Mackie. So like there's some good products out there, even good like episodes, but I feel like the Disney Plus shows were very lackluster. And to really aid the multiverse narrative. They just, at least as of right now, just kind of exist for existence sake.
The only one that really touched upon it was Loki.
Yeah, that was it.
And I'm excited for season 2, but then we got Secret Invasion, which was really weird because it started off strong and then the finale was something.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched Secret Invasion. It exists. I can testify that.
I felt like it started off strong, and then me and my my roommate watched the finale, and we were like, "What is going on, dude?"
Yeah, episode 1 was like fine. It was like, yes, you're building up your storyline, but everything else was just such a disaster. I couldn't even imagine, like, where did the 212 million go? Like, it was just shot in like offices. Like there was none of the money was on screen, and it certainly wasn't in the performances. I'll tell you that much. Sam Jackson felt like he was like falling asleep at the wheel, like straight up. And then Emilia Clarke, like she was trying, but like her narrative just wasn't. So much of it felt like it was reshot. Like I had some friends that worked on She-Hulk, and like they told me that while they were, they hit me up and they were like, "Yeah, we're going back for reshoots." And I was like, "Okay, cool. How long are you guys going to be gone for?" And I was just like asking them a bunch of questions. They were like, "Yeah, we're like they're like reshooting like 40% of like the show." So like so much money was like lost on the cutting room floor because like they didn't know what they were saying. They didn't know their voice. They didn't go in with a precise plan. They were like, "Oh, we'll figure it out because we're Marvel and we can afford to do that." And I feel like that's exactly what happened with Secret Invasion, where they just kind of started shooting without a plan, and then they tried to figure out a whole new plan in post-production. I think they even said like so much of like the show was found in the cutting room floor. I think that's an exact quote.
Yeah, that is
just disastrous. It's like just so much money is like gone. It's difficult to trust within that studio system, and I feel like that's why a lot of people will now, with even the SAG strike and even some of a few days ago, the VFX artists that worked on the Marvel pieces, they're now trying to start up a union, and they've been trying to do that for so long. Like so much of the movies now are made in post-production that they're taking advantage of so many artists. That's just so improper and going against the community of what film is supposed to be. It's supposed to be, it takes a village to raise a child. That's very much what filmmaking is like. And I feel like now that's when you have a lot of like strong indie artists, or even like 824, like certain like studios that are very like, by the people for the people, rolling your type of, rolling up your sleeves and wearing a ton of hats. Like I feel like this is the perfect time to be an indie filmmaker coming up, because it's with just online media in general, it's very easy for you to get your voice out there. And 2, people are looking for original content. I mean, that's why Everything Everywhere All at Once blew up as big as it did, right? It was just so loud and prominent. And honestly, Everything Everywhere All at Once is better than any of the Marvel multiverse nonsense that is out right now. They knew what they wanted to say, and they said it so loudly and so beautifully that I think it's now just such a good time to come up in the industry and create a community of just indie artists that want to say something profound and something strong to change the game. I think people are looking for change. Yeah,
I mean, Marvel has been not that great recently, and I mean DC is also, they had to reboot their whole universe for them to even know what they're doing.
Yeah, DC looks like it's equally disastrous right now.
Yeah.
I don't know
It
what they're doing, dude.
it was weird because I actually enjoyed The Flash, but then there was a sense of this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah,
Why did they do it?
yeah. I liked elements of The Flash. I'll tell you a funny story. So I saw it in theaters with my friends. I have like a select circle that I see all my movies with, and um, dude, I knew it was so bad that I didn't even ask my business partner Alex to come. Like, he comes to all of the movie premieres, but I was just like, I knew it was going to be a disaster, and I don't want it to. I like my record of like of giving good cinema recommendations, and I didn't want to tarnish my reputation by inviting my Alex, because I didn't want him to no longer trust my gauge of a good movie. Because it was hard enough to get him to go see Puss in Boots, and then he went to go see it, and he was like, "Okay, yeah, you're still at it strong." So yeah, I went to go see it with my friends, and I only liked the second act when I first saw it. I was like, the second act I felt like was the most polished. I felt like so much of the movie was made in post. So much of the movie just got lost in the shuffle. So much of the movie got cut because the studio didn't know what they wanted to do. And they invested in a lot of like new elements because of this new trajectory for the DCU, like George Clooney's cameo at the very end, right? Yeah. Like, that was originally part of the plan.
Yeah, the whole ending was completely changed.
Yeah. So I had saw it the first time, and I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to see this again. And then I get on a call with my buddy Justin, one of the writers of the show and one of the producers, and he tells me, he's like, yeah, like he's very steadfast in his beliefs. He doesn't watch any trailers. He when he goes to the theater, he always puts on his headphones. And he's like, I'm not going to watch anything because then I'm going to know the whole story. I'm like, okay, whatever. So he didn't know any of the leaks when he got into it. And he enjoyed the movie, and we hopped on a call and talked about it. And I respected his opinion so much that I bought it on VOD so I could rewatch it. And I came around to some of his opinions. I was like, maybe he wasn't so wrong in his beliefs. But yeah, I rewatched it just for Justin, and I experienced it again. I saw some of his points, but yeah, the movie's still meh. And I really don't know what to expect of this new DCU. Like, I like James Gunn. I liked the first Guardians. Guardians 2, like the Guardians 3 kind of in the similar ballpark for me. Like, I feel like that he kind of had to form his vision to the current continuity, so he kind of like lost a lot of his momentum and kind of lost a lot of his voice along the way, because Gamora died, and now we got to make a whole story about Gamora and how the love story is starting from scratch. And it's like you're kind of revisiting a lot of old narratives, and it feels like you're kind of just mandated to kind of tell the story. And felt a lot of elements like that throughout 2 and 3. And also, like, 2 felt very much like it's a completely separate product, because Disney was like, we could make a lot of money off of this.
Yeah.
What if it was kid friendly and not at all what you had done with the first movie? And I really liked what he did with Suicide Squad. I thought that was great. And I really liked Peacemaker. I thought Peacemaker was incredible.
Peacemaker was really good, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's James at his best, where like he can just do whatever the hell he wants, and he just goes at it. And I hope that's what the DCU is like, but it feels like the cuffs are on him because he's retaining so much of what Zach had started with. Like, Gal Gadot is coming back as like Wonder Woman, and
I hated that decision. I'm gonna be honest, I did not like that decision whatsoever. I enjoyed the first Wonder Woman movie. Yeah. I really liked it. Second one, I've only watched it once, and I've never watched it ever again.
Dude, I've never seen it since. I saw it whenever it came out on HBO Max, like that. I think I saw it for Christmas, like 2021 or something like that. And I don't know what I saw. I kind of just like, I was like, okay, that's that exists now.
I haven't seen it ever since. I can say the same thing for The Last Jedi. I saw it once, took me like 4 days to finish it, and then I never went back to it ever again.
Dude, you one-upped me. I didn't even finish it. I couldn't get through it, dude. I was just like, what? I saw The Force Awakens in theaters. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. This exists. I liked a lot of the elements of it. Force Awakens is like sturdy enough where you're like, yeah, like you're kind of just doing what you had done in the past again for money. Got it, cool. But at least like they had something there, and I like J.J. Abrams, so I was like, okay, maybe it can go somewhere. And then Ryan Johnson came in and he was like, how about we do none of that? And then J.J. Abrams was like, ooh, maybe give me back my notebook and let me do my thing. Let me finish out what I had started. There's certain studio movies that have came out recently that it's difficult to wrap my brain around.
I couldn't
got made.
Yeah, I couldn't finish the one movie. I couldn't sit through, and I didn't even go to like the second act. I think was I don't think we even got to the second. I think we were barely getting to the second act. Was Love and Thunder.
I unfortunately paid for that movie.
I did not. We put it on and we're like, okay, maybe it won't be bad. We saw the opening scene with gore and we're like, okay, maybe this isn't as bad as people say. And then like a couple minutes later, we just turned it off. We're like, no, we can't do this.
Yeah, that was very much my experience, except I couldn't leave the theater. I could, but I was like, I paid $22 for this, so I'm finishing it. Plus I paid for this popcorn and I brought all my friends here, so I gotta stick with it. I had paid for my tickets in advance, so I was like, once the reviews started coming out, I was like, ooh. I liked Ragnarok, so I thought, maybe TT knows what he's doing, but no, he got lost.
It was like he got Ragnarok and decided to make like one of the scary movie parody movies. And that's the best way me and my girlfriend explained it. Is like, this is like they got Ragnarok and they're like, okay, let's make a parody of it, like scary movie, and then that's what they went with.
Yeah, it's weird because like here are my thoughts. So Ragnarok, they had like I said, I had a few friends that had worked with Marvel throughout the years, and a few of them were interns. And there were so many drafts that came in of Ragnarok throughout the years, and a lot of the interns have to read it and like kind of like give notes or whatever it may be, and like they proof it before you give it off to the studio. Whether it's like revisions or like whatever it is, they say you should punch this up. Just people that have like a film degree that are young that kind of come in and help the company. So my theory is, I don't know if this is true. My theory is that there were so many drafts of Ragnarok that had already come before that when Waititi was hired and came on board, you already had a really strong foundation that he basically painted within the lines of that foundation. So he preserved the overall structural narrative of what Ragnarok could be, and then he kind of added his own flair. While Love and Thunder, he kind of just went wild. So he had no foundation, he had no structure. That's why he kind of went off the rails, because like Waititi isn't necessarily a writer. Waititi kind of doesn't work within that studio realm. Like when he's doing his own thing, he's fine as a writer because he doesn't have to uphold to the Disney legacy, right? Like when he makes Jojo Rabbit, he's great because he has a box because of how much his budget is. So he has to be, working within that box. While in the studio realm, you have so many voices, and he can't make a Taika Waititi film because of the fact that he can't write for himself like he normally does. He has to write for a studio. So he kind of just didn't work within that realm. And it's just kind of unfortunate because I was really looking forward to it, and I believed in him as an artist. And my concern is the same for James with the DCU, is that I'm concerned that while he can make really good films for himself, it's difficult for him to make quality studio products over a decade of just him being the one spearhead. There's a difference between like a Kevin Feige, who's a producer who oversees all of this, and an artist who's going to be stretched thin because their voice has to be in every single product, not just movies now, it's television now, it's video games. It's like the same continuity stretched throughout. Yeah, I'm definitely concerned, and I'm not necessarily sure what some of these products are going to look like. But I can tell you that I'm excited for Superman Legacy. That's all I know. I'll see Superman Legacy, and then I'll play it by ear after that.
Yeah, I'm watching Superman and Lois right now. I'm finishing up the new third season.
Oh, it's so
Incredible show. I loved. I didn't think I was gonna like it as much as I did after seeing Supergirl. I was like, eh. I
yeah,
saw Superman and Lois, and I was like, dude, this is amazing. I love Tyler as Superman. I like he's my favorite incarnation of Superman right now.
yeah. No, Tyler's really good. I think him and I really do like My Adventures with Superman. It's so good, dude.
Right? I watched it one night. I played it, and I was like, let me see the trailer for it, and it just started playing the whole episode, and I like just binged like half of this. Like I think there was like 3 episodes out. And I
Yeah,
just binged the 3 episodes. Like, oh wow, I'm already on the third episode, and I was like, this is really good.
yeah. No, I'm hooked, dude. I think the season's going to be really good. I don't know about future installments or that universe, but like this current season is like really good.
In- Invincible is also going to come out soon. I
Yeah,
think.
that's
No,
that's right here. I think they put out a teaser recently. Yeah,
yeah, Invincible is going to come out soon. I'm excited for that. Across the Spider-Verse is delayed.
yeah. That all of the Sony products I think are
I,
getting.
I saw it coming, to be honest, when they said that they hadn't done any of their lines yet. I think it was, and I
Yeah,
was like, yeah, they're getting delayed definitely.
yeah, that was a big red flag. I wasn't even. Yeah, they were supposed to come out in March, and now it's all through the guise of the writer's strike. But no, I think honestly they just weren't. They were just trying to get that second one done, and they haven't even started on the third. Is my thoughts. But
Yeah, I think they like had an outline for like the third one, and they're like, all right, we have the script, everything, and then like they just focused so much on the second one that when they finished, they're like, oh crap, we need to release this by next year.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's promising. Like I really did like Across. I think Beyond is going to be. I think it's going to be really good.
I think I know people had criticisms of Across, but it was like one of those things that I was like, I think we need Beyond for Across to like work as well as like it will be.
Yeah,
I was like, because it's definitely a two-parter movie. I was like, we need Beyond for it to be like the complete story, and then I think people would give more love to Across because a lot of people were saying, well, Into the Spider-Verse was better. I was like, well, yeah, but we also haven't gotten the conclusion for Across.
yeah. It's like judging Infinity War without having Endgame. It's like
I still like Infinity War more than Endgame. I will
I'm,
say that.
I'm in the same boat. I actually rewatched both with commentary. First time listening to it with commentary. I'm definitely more in the Infinity War camp. It's just, I think it's one of the best of the MCU. It's just strong.
Yeah, yeah. I remember I had an argument where people were like, "Endgame is the best Marvel movie." I was like, honestly, I think Infinity War. Honestly, the best Marvel movie for me was Winter Soldier.
Me too. Yeah, I think Winter Soldier is the best.
Yeah, and I was like, but if we have to choose between those two, Infinity War was a way better movie.
Mm. Yeah, I think Infinity War and Endgame are better theater experiences, but I think for me, I think Winter Soldier is just a better movie.
Yeah. Every time someone recommends me a Marvel movie, I just go watch Winter Soldier. There's no way you won't enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just a solid flick. It's difficult to kind of one up it.
Yeah.
I felt like Civil War didn't hold up at like while it did introduce like Spider-Man and a lot of characters, I feel like it kind of bled into a lot of the same.
Civil War was more of an Avengers movie than it was Captain America to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's where the inherent flaws are of just juggling too many characters and having too many threads and them kind of finding their path with telling an Avengers story. I think that's when the Russos were trying to find their way with outlining and juggling all these different voices in one room. But Civil War is good. I can't trash on it. It's not like it's not like Love and Thunder by any means. It's still some of the best of the MCU. It's just not as memorable as like Winter Soldier or as strong as like Infinity War.
Yeah, but with that being said, I think this is our wrap up for the episode. Thank you for being on.
Yeah,
today.
no, of course. This is awesome.
I really, really enjoyed this episode. I had a lot of fun.
Me too.
I hope to get you back like soon as well. I mean, I like having my guests back because I feel like after we talk about the main stuff, we can come back and just kind of have fun and just talk about whatever we want at that point.
Sure,
You know, this was very Monsters of Manhattan centric because, you know, we wanted to show, you know, what the show's about, everything about it, kind of dive into it. And I feel like having you back, you know, we could go more into like just crazy, anything we really want to talk about, to be honest.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Just keep me posted, and I'll let you know when we have some more updates of monsters and stuff. And yeah, thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor, and I'm excited for you know, seeing what the fan response is, how people engage with it, and I'm excited to come back in the future.
Yeah, guys. So this was episode 6 with Brandon Melo, great guest, and we will be having him soon. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.